you have worked for 5 years, and then you are certified as permanently unfit for work, so it's not temporary. Remember, we discussed this topic as well. Yeah. So, what does it mean by permanently unfit for work that you are hired for? For example, you are hired to take care of an elderly, but then you, for example, broke your arms, and then
disabled.
Disabled. Yeah, and you cannot fulfill the job duties, then you will be maybe considered permanently unfit for the work that you are hired for. Then, if the employer is the party who wants to terminate the contract, your employer still has to give 1 month's notice. Because this is constructive dismissal, right? It's not summary dismissal. So your employer still has to give you 1 month's notice if they want to terminate you because of unfit for work. Another situation would be ill treatment by employer. Verbal abuse will fall under this category. So what do you guys consider as verbal abuse?
Ask you to jump.
I will kill you.
Stupid, just stupid.
Yeah.
I will kill you.
Yeah, that's a threat actually.
Yeah.
Then this can actually be fall under the reasonable fear of physical danger as well. Because if they tell you, "Oh, I'll kill you," then that's more than a verbal abuse. But if I'm merely scolding you for your mistake, then it's not a verbal abuse. Like I'm telling you, "Oh, you actually did this wrong," then it's not a verbal abuse. So, there are other grounds in common law whereby you can consider yourself constructively dismissed. For example, as you have said before, your employer will falsely accuse you of doing something that you have not done. So that's one of the grounds as well. And then arrange to do illegal work. We've talked about this before, like asking you to do work in another premises, for example. Then this is one of the grounds to terminate the contract without notice as well. Remember we talked about salary last time? So how long if your employer doesn't pay you, it will be constructively right, gone wrong. So this is the recap, that one. And then there's something called unreasonable dismissal or variation. So what does it mean by unreasonable dismissal? This means that you have worked for at least 24 months and you are dismissed by your employer and there are no valid reasons. The reason under 32K we will talk about in the later slides, so don't worry about that. I will just give you some concepts here first. And then unreasonable variation means that the contract is varied by your employer and there are no valid reasons. But then you don't have to work for 24 months to claim under unreasonable variation. And then the employer actually bears the burden of proof. To prove that, there are reasons to dismiss or vary the contract. Okay, so now let's talk about what are the valid reasons to dismiss or vary the contract. You can see here, and I will talk about it one by one. Conduct. It is different from the summary dismissal. It does not have to be serious misconduct. Serious misconduct, your employer can dismiss you without notice, but for conduct, your employer still has to give you 1 month's notice. And it's a valid reason for dismissal or variation. And capability or qualifications, this can be compared to unfit for work, for example. This one means, if you see the first example, if you get older and you don't have enough strength to take care of the elderly, however you are originally hired to take care of the elderly, then you might be considered incapable of doing your work anymore. And then, in this situation, your employer still has to give you 1 month's notice to terminate the contract. And then, another situation would be redundancy. Remember we talked about redundancy when we talk about severance and long-term payment? So you guys tell me what is redundancy?
Redundancy is that the employer is not
Yes, but then why?
Financially.
Not really. You're not, for example, if you are hired to take care of the elderly, but then the elderly die, you're no longer required to do that job. That's called redundancy. Yeah.
Or else relocated.
Sorry?
Relocation. The employer relocates
Migrated.
Yes.
to another
Country.
Yeah.
And then under this situation, the employee can actually ask for the variation of the contract. Of course, this has to be subject to the approval from the immigration department as well. Like in this example, if there is children and the grandma passed away, then you may be asked to take care of the children instead by varying the contract. And then another situation would be employment will become unlawful if the employer does not vary the contract or you're not dismissed. Like there's a change of law, for example. And other substantive reasons would be subject to the labor tribunal's decision. So we will talk about some unlawful situation for employer to terminate you under a specific situation, no matter how long you're employed, and employee is deemed to have invalid reason. Later I will talk about the situations, but I'll just tell you that employee is deemed to have invalid reason if they terminate you under the circumstances in the later slides. Let's see. So the situation includes pregnancy, you guys engaging in trade unions activities, paid sick leave, giving evidence or information to authorities like the police, for example, and work injury. So I'll now talk about it one by one. Pregnancy. If you are pregnant, you have to give a notice of pregnancy to your employer, which is actually issued by the registered medical practitioner, and the expected date of you giving birth have to be stated on the notice. So your employer cannot dismiss you after you have served the notice. So what about your employer terminate you before you give the notice? What will happen? What should you do? Before you give the notice, your employer terminate you, but you're pregnant already.
She doesn't know yet.
She will pay the maternity.
No. We need to go to the report office.
We have to still serve the notice, even though your employer terminates you because you're pregnant. So still serve the notice, and your employer has to withdraw the notice. Withdraw the dismissal, the termination. Unless you are summarily dismissed. But then your employer can actually dismiss you after you have your maternity leave.
Yeah, that's why if you go back to the Philippines, your employer said, "Oh, don't be pregnant."
Yeah, don't go back to the baby.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid to pay right now. Yeah, that's don't get pregnant.
Yeah.
But since they're number one.
Yeah. Even though you're pregnant, during the period they cannot terminate you. After the maternity leave, they can just terminate you.
But the worker is the one to pay her maternity bills, right? Yes. Not the employer.
You mean paying for the checkup and everything?
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't it
But you get maternity leave pay as well, which we will
yes,
talk
but the expenses
The
for being
bills,
pregnant
your
is
bills,
yours,
your
right?
hospital bills during the maternity checkup and the leave during the.
No, it's the worker.
It's the worker,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's the worker.
Because again, pregnancy is not a sickness.
It's a choice.
Yeah.
True.
It's
Me myself never.
Maybe it's a choice and a accident.
And give from the gut. No, give from the gut.
Yes.
But in this situation, no more.
So they cannot afford to give the
satisfaction and the needs of our kids. Oh,
Yeah. Okay. So, if you're dismissed unlawfully and you're not summarily dismissed, and which means that your employer terminates you because of your pregnancy, so the employer must pay you wages in lieu of the notice, an extra 1 month salary, and maternity leave pay, which we will talk about later, the maternity leave pay. So 3 things: extra 1 month salary, wages in lieu of notice, and then maternity leave pay.
No wonder they don't like their
Yeah.
workers to come back.
Because they have to pay a lot, right?
Yeah.
If they
That's the
terminate,
reason.
Yeah.
if they kept you, it's paid.
Right. And other situation would be you joining the activities of the trade union. They cannot terminate you on this basis, and they cannot make it a precondition that, oh, you should not join any activities organized by the trade union.